Hello, thank you for joining me for our story. This is the mystery of Pentecost. It's in a box, like our parables, but it's red. I wonder what that means. Maybe it means that it's kind of like a parable, but also not like a parable in some ways. Let's open it up and see what's inside. The base for our story this week is red, like our Pentecost color, like fire. Let's begin our story. Long, long ago, all the people of the world came together to build a tower. They all spoke the same language, and they worked together to build the tower as high as they could. But as they kept building, each group started to think that maybe they were the best. They started to think that maybe the tower they built was greater than the world that God built. And they began to fight about who was the greatest builder. They even developed their own languages to talk about how great they were. And all of them using their own languages began to sound like a muddled mess of noises. It was loud and confusing, like they were all babbling. And one day, they built the tower so great and were fighting with each other so much that it towered over. And so they called it the Tower of Babel. And from that time on, their languages broke and splintered. They were each beautiful in their own way, but they couldn't talk to each other. And this went on for thousands of years, through the time of the kings and the prophets, down to the time of Jesus and his disciples. Jesus took his disciples and he taught them, and he tried to teach everyone. He eventually was crucified, and then he rose again, and he was back with his disciples sometimes. And sometimes he wasn't with them, but he was still felt there, kind of like how we feel Jesus is with us. And then one day, he came to them as they were gathered in the great city of Jerusalem, with its high walls and fortifications and its open gate. And the disciples were gathered together in the upstairs room. There was Jude and James the Less. There was Bartholomew and Peter. There was Simon and James the Greater. There was Thomas and John, Matthew, Philip, and Andrew. 11 of them gathered in the room, all of them except for Judas, because he was already gone. And Jesus came to them there and told them that something miraculous was going to happen. And he took all of them out of the room, out of Jerusalem, all the way to Bethany, to a mountain called Olivet, far out in the country. And there, Jesus told them that it was going to happen exactly like he had promised, that Jesus would go up to heaven and that he would send the Spirit back to be with his disciples. And Jesus ascended to heaven, and the disciples were left. And they went back to the city together. They went to the temple to give thanks for Jesus and his keeping his promises, and to pray for wisdom about who they should call to take Judas's place so that there would be 12 of them again. And after talking about it a long time and praying to God, they called Matthias, one of Jesus' other followers, to be with them. And the very next Sunday, as they were gathered here in this room, a loud noise came like the rushing of wind, and the Holy Spirit of God came and rested on them. It filled them up like they were on fire, and it made their tongues burn within them, so that they went out into the city and had to tell everyone the good news of Jesus. And the most amazing thing was that they met people who had traveled from all over. And the disciples could still speak to them in whatever language they could speak. And they understood each other. And because of this, the people knew that they had come close to God, and God had come close to them. And they were no longer just disciples, which means students. They had become apostles, which means people who are sent out to tell the good news. And the disciples went out from there into all the world, telling people the good news of Jesus. And ever since that time, the church has celebrated this day every year as Pentecost, a time to give thanks for the Holy Spirit, to remember this great gift, and to proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ and the birthday of the church. I wonder what part of this story is your favorite part? I wonder what part is most important. I wonder if there's anything we could take away and we would still have everything we need. I wonder if you have ever come close to God and felt that God has come close to you.